Welcome back to another edition of the Disney Dish podcast with Jim Hill. It's me, Len Testa, and this is our show for the week of Schmurz Day, July 20th, 2020. On the show today, I visit the Animal Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, and Disney cancels a bunch of projects. And in our main segment, Jim tells us about Disneyland's Hyperhighway, the design of the infrastructure around the resort once California Adventure opened to make access easier. Let's get started by bringing in the man who says that the Keebler elves putting an oven in a treehouse seems like a really unsafe work environment. It's Mr. Jim Hill. Jim, how's it going?
I am so glad you started by talking about food because I have a bone to pick with you, Len. For the love of God, stop talking about the chicken at the Grand Floridian, all right?
Did you see? I did a blog post on that chicken. Oh my God, that was amazing.
This is the second time you've talked about this particular chicken that's served at the Grand Floridian Cafe. And I was this far away from booking a flight to Florida.
Taking your life into your own hands for some fried chicken.
It was such an amazing piece of food porn. You wrote so lovingly about this chicken. And I loved your description of it because particularly the last time you were served chicken at the Grand Floridian Cafe, it was this mutant chicken breast. And in fact, what is it that you said in the article? To get the effect of A, this was a chicken, and then the B, how did you catch it? Because it must have been 8 feet tall.
The chicken, if you haven't seen the blog post, I have pictures of it on there, but the chicken breast spans a 12-inch dinner plate. It looked more like half a turkey breast, something that you would serve at Thanksgiving. So when it came out, my first question to the server was, is this really chicken? And my second question was, how did you catch it?
Yeah. So
It was messy. Actually, it's kind of funny. I was in the studios yesterday, and a subscriber stopped me to say hi, and they actually had gone to the Grand Floridian Cafe the night before and ordered the chicken because of the blog post that I saw that I'd written on it.
I'm serious. I came within inches of snagging a plane ticket just because, A, your earlier story with chicken, and then B, it's gotten better. And it's like, man.
So good.
Okay.
It was incredible. We'll talk about food too. I did food and wine yesterday at Epcot, so we'll talk about that too.
Cool.
All right. First, Jim Doe, let's do a shout out to subscribers over at disneydish.bandcamp.com. Jim, a lucky 13 weeks with a record number of Bandcamp subscribers. Also, folks, we've got Bandcamp exclusive walk-arounds of Epcot in the studios coming out in the next couple days, including tasting notes for Food and Wine 2020. And I saw so many subscribers in the park yesterday, everywhere I went. Thanks to Kellum and Mike and Beth and Becky and Megan and Emily and everyone else who stopped us to say hi. It was great to see all of y'all. Jim, thanks to new subscribers Sam E., Deshab, and CV Workout, and longtime subscribers Short Pixie, Ethan K., and Jimmy G. Jim, these are the folks who are the game wardens who finally cleaned up the poaching problem on the savannah at Disney's Kilimanjaro Safaris. You remember how when you used to go on this ride, you'd always see an orphaned elephant somewhere along the way?
Mm-hmm.
But not anymore, Jim. By educating the villagers on the importance of conservation and allegedly dangling a couple of holdouts over the crocodile pit, they got the message across, Jim. True story.
Oh, well, I would actually like at some point in my lifetime actually see the crocodiles there move. I'm still not convinced.
The world's slowest animatronics.
Yeah.
All right, Jim. So a couple of things. On last week's show, I mentioned that before I went into the Magic Kingdom, I was asked a question about whether I'd been in an airport in the last 14 days. And a bunch of listeners wrote in to say that I didn't explain what would happen if I answered yes to that question. So I asked Disney, and they said simply it would lead to other follow-up questions. So you can say, yes, you've been in an airport and still get into the parks. If you say yes, and that airport was JFK or Newark or LaGuardia, I'm sure you're going to get a follow-up question about how long you've been in Florida and whether you're complying with the 14-day mandatory quarantine period. But just saying, yes, you've been in an airport isn't enough to keep you out of the parks. So I hope that that answers that question.
Okay.
Also, Jim, we said on last week's show that there was some dissatisfaction with annual pass holders about the way Disney was doing park reservations. Right. So remember, now you've got a fixed capacity for reservations in each of the 4 Disney World parks right now. And 3 groups are allocated space reservations for those parks. And those 3 groups are guests with resort reservations, guests who've bought date-specific tickets, like I bought a ticket for August 1st, and then annual pass holders. And when Disney opened up reservations to all three groups, annual pass holders quickly filled up all of the available slots that they had for most parks. So, for example, Disney's Hollywood Studios sold out to annual pass holders really, really fast. And so even though there was lots of capacity left over for example, guests with dated tickets or guests who had hotel reservations, if you're an annual pass holder, once they hit that limit, you're out of luck. And we said that, Disney really should change this policy because if there's capacity left and it's not going to the other two groups, why not give annual pass holders a shot at this? Because they paid for their tickets. And Disney this week actually changed that policy. So the doing exactly what we said. The idea being that if there are spaces available in the parks that aren't being taken by the other two groups, annual pass holders can have it. And so that went into effect this past Tuesday, July 14th. And since then, Jim, have you seen the statistics?
No, I've not.
The studios is still sold out. In fact, from July 16th through the middle of August at least, I don't think annual pass holders can get into the studios any day. But the good news is that you can annual pass holders can now get into, I think, every other park almost every other day. So the studios is the only park in which annual pass holders still have difficulty getting in.
Okay. Well, that says a lot about the appeal of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, likewise Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, Rise of the Resistance, right. And that extends out, as far as I can tell, through late September, like on weekends, especially in September. It's very difficult for annual pass holders to get into the studios.
Okay.
And speaking of the parks, I've been in 3 parks this week. So it's Friday, and I've been in 3 parks. Sunday, I went to the Animal Kingdom, and I was there with Steve, our statistician, and our goal was to test a touring plan, 2 different versions of the exact same touring plan. On Sunday, Steve was going to start at Flight of Passage and go to Kilimanjaro Safaris, and that was his own idea for a touring plan. I was doing a computer-optimized touring plan, which had me start at Dinosaur, which is really interesting because we didn't think there were going to be that many people in Animal Kingdom, and it probably wouldn't have mattered which way you went. This is probably going to be the Sunday on the Animal Kingdom, probably one of the slowest days of the year. And yet, despite that, Steve waited 40 more minutes in the line than I did, 40 minutes over the course of the day. And the reason was I think everyone went to Flight of Passage in Kilimanjaro Safaris when the parks opened, so that by the time I got there, the lines were completely gone. So I went to Dinosaur, literally walked onto Dinosaur. They didn't have the pre-show running, so you could just walk through the pre-show film. And I walked onto the car. Like didn't stop walking from the time I entered the building to the time I was on the ride vehicle. And of course, there's plexiglass everywhere on that. I went from Dinosaur. Let's see, Primeval World is closed. We'll talk about that in a minute. From there, I went to Expedition Everest and again walked on. In fact, I walked on. The gates actually opened up in front of the ride vehicle so that I didn't have to stop walking from the time I left Dinosaur until the time I got in the seat of Expedition Everest, which was kind of great.
Wow.
Yeah, I was trying to time my weight for the lines app, and I was hitting the button, and a cast member came over and said, "Sir, you need to sit down so we can let the train go." Sorry, I got distracted here for a second. But there were 3 of us, so my 3-party group was on the train, so it was just us. Didn't inconvenience anyone else. From there, we went to Kali River Rapids, and I haven't been on Kali River Rapids in a couple of years because I hate getting wet. The good news is that they're not running any of the really, really, really tremendous water features that will get you soaked. So remember, at the top of the lift hill, they sometimes run like a little geyser that just soaks half the raft. They're not running that. I got spritzed, but I didn't get wet on it at all, so that was good. In fact, they would have let us ride again, but I didn't want to push my luck on it. But it was good to be on Kali. Then from there, we walked on to safaris. Like, again, literally walked all the way to the end to the point where they say how many people in your group. Then the only time we waited was for the truck to pull up. And this is interesting. They've actually got plexiglass between each row of the truck now. And because of that, and because it's outdoors, it's actually a mask optional environment. You don't have to wear a mask on it. Let me just say, wear the mask, right? Don't not wear the mask.
Okay.
And then from there, the only big ride that was left was Flight of Passage for us. So we, the middle part of the day, the touring plan had us doing all of the nature trails. So we did the Discovery Island trails. We did Gorilla Falls. We did Maharaja Jungle Trek. all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And those were fabulous. We also threw into the touring plan, It's Tough to Be a Bug, which is not normally on the plan because A, it's not a great use of time. B, it's not very popular. So we didn't. So we did that. Also, have you seen the news about the Up Bird Adventure show being replaced?
Yeah. Now, just to be clear here, this means they pulled Doug and Russell out of the show, right?
Right. So the second or third version of this show was bringing in the Up characters to talk about environmentalism in birds, and it never really worked. But it was better than the second version of the show, which was sort of like Coachella meets aviation or aviaries. Wasn't great. This is the best version of this show that it's ever been. I don't think they have a formal name for it yet. If they do, it's not on My Disney Experience yet.
Okay.
But it's all about the birds and their trainers. There's nothing, there's no characters, there's no silly story. It's just, here are the birds and here's what they can do and here's how we train them. It's fast paced. It focuses entirely on the birds. There's still audience interaction where the birds fly over you and they do, stunts like flying around people in the crowd. But it's informative, it's entertaining. It's the best version of this show that it's ever been. And I think that's great because clearly Disney took the break from, March to July to rethink how to do this show. And what they've got now is, like I said, it's the best version of the show. It's nice to see them actually doing these things.
That's great. Okay.
A couple of other things that we noticed around Animal Kingdom. The carnival games in Dino Land aren't available. Likewise, remember in Africa, there used to be a set of outdoor drums that families could pound on around Harambe Market. Those are no longer available. That kind of makes sense. Also, in the nature trails, there's an indoor room on the Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail where you could see like naked mole rats and other exhibits in an indoor space. That's closed. All the other spaces are open, and they've tried to make everything as low touch as possible. So, for example, you remember on the Maharaja Jungle Trek, where you would go into the aviary, you'd have to pass through this curtain of plastic chains.
Yes.
You don't touch those anymore. The chains are gone. So there's still a door, but there's hand sanitizers now on both sides of the door. So that's good. The one thing I will say is the Animal Kingdom and the studios, which we'll talk about in a second, kind of miss the equity performers a little bit. So the union actors who do things like Festival of the Lion King or Finding Nemo in the Animal Kingdom, they haven't come to an agreement yet with Disney about how they're going to return and work in the current environment. So those shows aren't running. And I think for Animal Kingdom and for the studios, they kind of need those shows more than, let's say, the Magic Kingdom needs equity performers. Not that Magic Kingdom doesn't, but there are relatively fewer things to do in the Animal Kingdom and the studios. And I think that does impact the park a little bit.
Sadly, given everything that's going on in Florida right now, it could be a while before this gets resolved.
I heard the big issue there is around testing and the frequency of it.
Yeah, that's it exactly. And well, here's hoping they can come to some sort of an understanding soon. So.
Yeah, but the Animal Kingdom was fantastic. I will say this, other than wearing the masks and obviously the social distancing stuff, and I'm going to harp on this throughout the entire show, Jim, it is hot in Florida. When we were in the Animal Kingdom on Sunday, it was 97 to 99 degrees plus the humidity. And that was, by the way, it's still in the shade. So with the heat index, it was somewhere between 105 and 107. And I'm not kidding. So like I actually wore a long sleeve white running shirt to keep the sun off of me. And everything, but I was wearing shorts. But between my knees and my ankles, where my socks ended, I have heat rash in a clear line around where my socks were. And heat rash, Jim, is a polite way of saying that the concrete was cooking my skin.
Given the way you described your time at the Kingdom, you just did not stop moving.
No.
So, I mean, you got some great cardio.
I have been closing all of my Apple Watch rings every day.
So
there's a lot to do. And it's just, you just got to stay hydrated. I mean, I know we're all worried about the virus and everything, but man, Florida weather is just no joke. It's super, super hot. All right. So Wednesday was the opening of Epcot and also the start of Food and Wine 2020, because it's July and who doesn't want cheddar cheese soup? in July. So my sister Christina and I went to Epcot. We went through the International Gateway entrance because I wasn't up for dealing with parking in Epcot. Disney's been opening the parking lots about 30 minutes in advance, and I wasn't going to sit in the car while they figured out what was going on there. So actually Ubered over to the boardwalk and got dropped off, which, by the way, I learned you can't do. So don't try it.
Oh.
You can't do that. Okay. But anyway, you can get dropped off close and walk. So I go through the International Gateway, and the interesting thing was that Disney had cast members on either side of the International Gateway entrance applauding guests as they came in. It was really nice. And Disney's actually got cast members who now live in the United States but are from the countries in Epcot. So, Canadians who now live in the United States, people from France. And they were holding up the flags of their respective nations as they were going in, and they were dressed in the standard Epcot uniform of those nations. It was kind of nice to see the international cast out and about, because we know that most of the international program folks had to go back, and all the college program kids had to go back as well, right?
That they did.
Yeah, but it was nice to see everybody. And this was, so the 15th was the day after Bastille Day in France, so we wished everyone in France a belated, Bastille Day. Is there such a thing as a belated beheading day? Is that...
The nice thing is, if you actually miss Bastille Day, they do have the head gift bag.
There's that too. Yeah. And of course, Canada Day was July 1st, so lots of well wishes all around.
Oh, there we go.
To our friends. But we went on a bunch of rides. So Living with the Land looks exactly the same. They're obviously doing distancing of the boats, but that boat those boats are running at like 60 or 70% of capacity just because of the layout. The plants look great. They've got some new plants in there. There's actually a "We Missed You" sign in the greenhouse, which is kind of great. But that looks good. Soarin', we went on. There are now plexiglass dividers between parties. So the way that they've divided up the rows is there's a fixed group size for seats. Like there's a group of 2 seats and then a plexiglass divider, and then a group of 3 seats and a plexiglass divider, and so on. I think up to groups of 4, so that they can mix and match group sizes to fit in the plexiglass barriers and still get as many people on the ride as possible. And Soarin' had a 45-minute wait most of the morning when we were there.
Wow. Even with the 3 auditoriums?
Even all 3 were running, and there was still a 45-minute wait. Epcot on Wednesday, first day, because I think it was because it was Food and Wine, felt the most busy of any park that I've been to so far. Hollywood Studios yesterday was a close second. And I don't mean it was busy like it felt crowded, but it felt alive. Like it felt like this is something approximating what I feel normal could be during a pandemic in Florida, right? It felt good. It felt like it was vibrant. It felt, like I said, alive. And it felt really good to be in the park too. It felt like there were lots of people having fun. So that was good. The one thing I will say about Living with the Land is, like when you're walking around the upper level of the Land Pavilion, and then you take the stairs or the escalator down by Living with the Land, and then you sort of have to walk over to Soarin'. That walkway, I think they need some sort of directional navigational thing. Like maybe they need to they need to do directional stuff on the second floor of the Land Pavilion, one way in and one way out. I think what you don't want is a bunch of people walking by each other very, very closely in that little walkway between Living with the Land.
It's so interesting you say that, because our good friend Carly was tweeting out photos pointing out the exact same thing.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, that there were just sort of people just tended to accumulate because they didn't know which direction to go, or they were waiting for their parties or that sort of thing. And it just was a little concerning to her. So
yeah, I mean, if you're wearing a mask and you're just walking by someone who's also wearing a mask, I mean, your risk is relatively low there. I wouldn't want to be standing in that walkway for any length of time, and we didn't, right? And I didn't see anyone doing it. But it's the one place where I thought the congestion was maybe a little different than what we were expecting. So I think if they change that to one way in, one way out, that might work. Or they could just put up plexiglass dividers. Along the middle of it too. They could do that too, right? Okay. But they'll figure it out. I think everywhere else it was really, really good. Soarin', same ride, every other seat in the car. So if you've got a party of 4, you can occupy one ride vehicle. But if you're in a party of 2 or 3, you're basically going to get the car to yourself. Test track, same thing. Can't build your own car, so the pre-show stuff is gone. Also over at Mission Space, no post-show stuff as well, and your group gets its own capsule. So you're not going to be in a capsule with people who aren't in your group.
Isn't that a fairly high-touch ride experience? Did you see anybody cleaning vehicles afterwards?
They were actually. So same thing over at Millennium Falcon, which is, and I'll talk about that too.
Okay.
So hand sanitizers going in, coming out, and then cast members with cleaning solution all over everything. I would still minimize my touching on that. But yeah, it was lots. I mean, you could actually smell the cleaning solution, not only in the capsule, but like all around, like walking in. Okay. So I think they're hosing everything down.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's not my favorite ride. It gives me a headache every time I do it. I didn't go on Frozen Ever After because we were doing Food and Wine at that point. But from what I understand, it's the same thing.
Yeah, the only difference, again, that I'm aware of is when you get into the interior queue space, the very thing you described for Space Mountain and Big Thunder, the plexi that extends up is in place there.
And because it didn't go in, I'm not sure. Have they shortened the queue, or is it extended with the plexiglass?
To be honest, I think it's extended with the plexiglass.
That makes sense because, like on Millennium Falcon, Smuggler's Run, and on Big Thunder, all those rides, they're trying to maximize the amount of space that's indoors in the queue because, again, it's July and it's hot. But they're also trying to maintain social distancing. So the way to do that is to use every available spot in the queue while maintaining separation between like switchbacks. Okay, so that makes sense.
It's a tough balancing act, but they're trying.
It is, and I think especially for something like Frozen, where so much of the queue extends out now, so it goes out of the ride, down past Akershus, it sort of makes a right and heads towards China. And when I was there Wednesday, the line actually extended to the border between Norway and China.
As I understand it, the Royal Sommerhus is closed. You would think that maybe they could extend some of the queue space there, at least temporarily.
But it would cut off the entrance to the rest of the pavilion.
Good point.
If it went that way, and you don't want to have people crossing paths if you don't have to.
No, I get that. Okay.
Yeah, so that made sense.
Yep.
We went on the films in Canada and China, and they had marked areas to stand. Blissfully, the people in Canada let us bring our 30 ounces of ice water into the film with us. So we actually got to cool off in Canada, which made me love the country even more. It was great. China, same thing, marked areas to stand. France, we didn't watch the film because it was Beauty and the Beast. And I don't think it's great. But they had the usual every other row thing marked off. And then within each row, there's 3 or 4 seats between each group. Also, we in terms of entertainment, so we didn't see a lot of World Showcase entertainment. We did notice the Hat Lady, who normally is the piano player, who normally plays in the Rose and Crown Bar in the UK. She's actually out in the gazebo now, and sounds fantastic. Like, I don't know what sort of amplifiers they're putting her piano or organ through, but she could play Woodstock, Jim. I mean, it was loud. It was bold, vibrant music out there.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it sounded really, really good. If you've ever wondered what like Carlos Santana would interpret Mary Poppins soundtrack, this is that. It's
wow, that I can't tell you how many times I've
how many times you've
puzzled at that question. Okay, wow, okay.
Carlos Santana covered Mary Poppins.
There we go.
The other thing we did, obviously, it's the start of Food and Wine. So we wanted to see what was going on with Food and Wine. And at this point, it's mostly the old flower and garden booths. So the newer Food and Wine booths are mostly not open. But the good news is that Disney did not just bring back everything that was at Flower and Garden back in March and just reheat it and do it again. They actually came out with a bunch of new dishes, and some of them are fantastic. So the first thing we tried, by the way, Jim, have you had lunch?
I'm still getting over the chicken, Len. Don't hurt me.
This isn't going to help, Jim. This isn't going to help. All right.
Okay.
So the first thing we tried was at Japan. It's and by the way, shout out to my sister Christina, who figured out what all the new things were on the menus so we could focus on the new things. So the first new thing was this tempura donburi at Japan. It's 2 pieces of tempura shrimp and with a slice of vegetable tempura with a tensuyu dipping sauce. It tasted to me like a sweet dipping sauce served over sticky sushi rice. And The bowl for this, Jim, was massive. This was a ton of food for $8, and it was delicious. In fact, it was so good we went back and ordered another one after we tasted this first one, because we were like, "Well, okay, we're not going to share this. There's no point." It was, I think to me the sauce tasted like ponzu sauce. It was more sweet, a little bit salty, but mostly sweet. But there was enough of it that it coated the rice, and you could dip the tempura shrimp and vegetables in it. It was amazing. The shrimp were sweet. The tempura had a little bit of a crunch on it, as much as you could do in Florida when it's 97 degrees with 88% humidity. But it all tasted so good. Look, one of the best things I've had in Food and Wine or Flower and Garden in years. And so I went back to order another one, and a bunch of Disney managers were there, and I was like, "This is fantastic." I'd also ordered the salmon flower pot. Have you seen this?
No.
It's a small flower pot filled with sushi rice with some seaweed, and then fresh salmon and salmon roe and spinach, coated in a poke sauce, which is like a soy miso glaze. So it's salty. Not super salty, but like, soy sauce is salty. So you've got salmon, rice with a salt flavor, and then you've got tempura shrimp and vegetables with rice and a sweet flavor. And the sweet and the salt together went really, really well. So I was talking to the managers over at Japan. By the way, we're the first people to buy anything in Japan for Food and Wine 2020. Woo! Okay. Get that badge, get that pin. And I was saying, hey, this is a great balance. And and the manager said, well, Chef Ken has been working on this basically since March to try and figure out what he was going to do for Food and Wine, and he was going to relay the comments onto him. But yeah, it was fantastic. We're actually doing Instagram Live on the Touring Plates channel as we were doing this, and about an hour later, we walked by the Japan Pavilion, and there were people who had seen the Instagram Live feed and had lined up to order because of that. So you're welcome, Disney, and thank you guys all for watching that.
Oh, very cool.
A couple of other things. Mexico now has a ribeye taco, which I didn't realize. I'd probably gone like 3 weeks without eating steak because, I was fascinated by the chicken. But it was amazing to have the ribeye. It was a little bit fatty. It was how ribeye is, but it had just been cooked. They'd put a really nice sauce on it. They had fresh corn tortillas, and it tasted like corn. It was amazing. And by the way, I had the Japan stuff around 11. I had the ribeye taco after 6 hours of eating, and it was still good, which tells you how good the ribeye must have been. Like if I'd had that first, it might be my new favorite. It was delightful. Came with a quarter of a lime wedge, so you can do the lime on top of it. It was great. Let's see. Flavors of the Caribbean has a new dessert. It's called flancocho, where if I look at it, it's the word flanc, F-L-A-N-C, and then ocho. So I'm like, we have 8 flancs. What's a flanc? This is why I wasn't a language major in college, Jim.
Kind of belabors the obvious, but please continue.
So it's a passion fruit flan with toasted coconut on it, and it was amazing. Like I'm not a huge fan of flan; it's a consistency thing for me. But if I wasn't with Chrissy and otherwise, being recorded eating this, I would have tried to fit it all in my mouth at once. Like it was that good. The passion fruit was tart and bold, and really, really good fruit flavor. And the flan was almost yogurt like in its consistency. I mean, it was flan. It was solid, right? But it wasn't like Jell-O consistency. It was the right consistency for flan. And I'm not a huge fan of toasted coconut, but it added a little bit of texture to this. That was really, really good. Yeah, I really like that. Also, the United States Pavilion has we went to check the United States Pavilion because it did a seafood boil back for Flower and Garden that I thought was one of the best things that they've done. It's a relatively large bowl of seafood. So you get mussels, crawfish, shrimp, sausage, corn, and potatoes in a broth, a seafood broth for $8. And it's an amazing amount of food for $8, all cooked really well. But we were trying to figure out, number one, how do they ensure that you get one of each ingredient, or two mussels and 2 shrimp and 3 potatoes? Like, how do they ensure you get all the right amount of stuff in each bowl? And it turns out they actually have these little plastic nets that they put the food in to cook it. So it looks like your food is being cooked in a hairnet, or it does. No other word for it, Jim. In a hairnet. But they place the hairnets in the pots of broth so that you're guaranteed to get, so when they're filling the hairnets, they guarantee that you're going to get the right amount of each thing. And then they cook it, and then they take the hairnet out, they open it up, they put the contents in the bowl, and then they put the broth on top of the bowl, which is super clever to me. Like, I thought that was a really clever idea.
Definitely. Again, I'm just having a little trouble getting past the hairnet visual, but again,
if you want to say fishnet.
There we go. Thank you. Better. Okay, better.
Aaron, see if you can edit all that around. But the reason why we went was back in at the beginning of Flower and Garden, they had a barbecue plate for Flower and Garden, and now it's lobster season because it's July, so they had a lobster roll out. So this is $8.25. It's about a 6-inch long lobster roll with garlic aioli on it and lobster and a butter mayo aioli. It's not garlic, but tons of lobster. Tasted very sweet. I'm not sure $8.25 is the right price point for that. Like, if you would have said it was $6.25, I'd have been like, bargain. Okay, at $6.25 it's a bargain. At $7, I would have been like, okay, that's fair for what you got. $8.25 seems a little bit high for me on the price point, but everything was cooked perfectly. I mean, flavor was there. The lobster roll had been toasted so that it was crunchy. It was buttery. Everything was great. I just questioned the price point on it. But I expect that to be around for a couple of months. And then I think we're going to, in the fall, we'll see barbecue come back. Given that makes sense.
Regal Eagle and all that certainly makes sense. So.
And Regal Eagle was open, by the way. I did an Instagram video where we captured them starting up the outdoor barbecue grill. So you've got this white smoke coming out of the grill, and my comment was that the United States has just elected a new pope.
I knew you'd go there.
You knew do it. No, wait, it's just the barbecue opening.
Okay.
And then finally, China has a new chicken dumpling and a new beef bao bun. My sister Christina loved both of these things. I thought the chicken dumpling was good. It came with a pickled cabbage slaw on the side, which was delightful. This was literally the last thing I ate during the day. So I think I was actually full at this point. So this was sort of in the middle of my list. The beef bao bun is like beef and peppers. Tons of beef on this bao bun, like as much or more than you got with the ribeye taco in Mexico. It was like plenty of beef, enough for 2 people to sample easily on it. And the bao bun was cooked really, really well. I think at this point I was just full, but I would definitely think you should try it.
Heat index wise, how bad was it at Epcot when you were doing all this?
It was 105. At one point, it was 99 degrees, and then thank God it started raining. So if you listen to our Bandcamp exclusive, Christy and I actually record a little bit in the rain in Epcot, and the rain actually made it better. You would think walking around in the rain in Florida is miserable. It was way better than being in the heat. I much prefer the clouds and the rain to the heat. It was brutal.
Definitely, but wow, thank you for your service. I mean, just eating that much food in that much heat.
And the thing is, too, we were drinking water. Like I had, I'm not joking, a gallon of water in the 6 hours I was in Epcot, and it wasn't enough. It was crazy. It was crazy how hot it is. Yeah. Also, so we got in the Uber afterwards to go back, and my Uber driver had the sort of a roll up plastic divider. So I get in the car, and the plastic divider was up. We're all wearing masks, and it was a rather large car, so we were pretty far apart. But he rolled down the plastic barrier, not because of the coronavirus, but because I smelled that bad. Like I could actually see him smell me in the mirror. That tells you how much I was sweating. And I wasn't even offended. I'm like, you know what? I offend myself as well, sir.
Okay.
So.
At one point during your day at Epcot, I forget which of the listeners of the show you ran into, but he did the social distancing photo with you in the background, I think at the UK pavilion. And again, I just want to pause here to the effect of your hair.
Yeah.
Have you noticed yourself getting any stronger? Can you bench press cars? Because it really kind of looks, those Roman, the wreath of olives, that leaves the people.
Yeah, it looks like that. My hair is its own celebrity now. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna need an agent. Yeah.
Just wanted to just an update on your superpowers, whether or not they've increased. So
no joke. I was in the studios yesterday, and listeners walked by and said, "Hi, Len. I love your hair." And that was it. That's the only thing they said.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. So I was in the studios yesterday. I got there about 9:30. No problem parking or getting in. They were actually running the Skyliner from about 9:20 on. So breeze getting through security here. They're using the new scanning technology where you keep almost all of your stuff in your bag except for metal. So you just hold that out sort of in front of you as you're walking, and just literally walked right through everything. It was fantastic. Very easy to get into the park. I headed over to Animation Courtyard about 9:50 to try and get a Rise of the Resistance boarding group. My friend Seth Kuberski was in the park as well, and our agreement was we'd both try and get each other into our boarding groups, and we'd see what happened. So right at 10 o'clock, boarding group started. There were about 10 people in Animation Courtyard because nothing's going on in there. And I got through the first screen, and then MDE crashed twice. And then by the time I got back in, Seth had already gotten me in a boarding group. We were boarding group 39. Okay. Now, the interesting thing about the boarding group now, though, is Disney's updated the app so that it'll tell you approximately how long you're going to wait until your boarding group is called. So at 10 a.m. for boarding group 39, they told us that it was going to be about 295 minutes, so roughly 6 hours.
Wow.
So we would expect 4 o'clock, right? And that's new because before they were not giving estimates about how long it was going to take to get in boarding groups. So we had 5 or 6 hours to kill in the studios, which is good because we wanted to go on a bunch of all the new rides. We went on to Slinky Dog, and the line for Slinky Dog, as you can imagine, now extends all the way out of Toy Story Land. It's still super popular to get into. In fact, when by the time we had got our boarding groups, the line for Slinky Dog was actually down to Voyage of the Little Mermaid in Animation Courtyard. The good news is that it went pretty fast.
Okay. Well, I would imagine with the social distancing and all that.
Yeah, that's it. It's not like the line was completely full. It's 6 foot increments between groups. That's how long the line was. Okay. Similarly, the line for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway went through the indoor queue, the outdoor queue, and then started spiraling around the central hub of Disney's Hollywood Studios. And it extended, I would say it took up probably, that big circular center area in front of the Chinese theater. I would say half of that, maybe 2/3 of it, was filled with line at 10 a.m. when the park opened. And I saw the line go anywhere from 75 to 125 minutes for Runaway Railway. But in reality, it was about a third of that. I don't think anybody waited more than 40 minutes for the ride. The big thing again, though, is it's in the sun. And if you're going there in the morning, you've got the humidity burning off from the night before, plus the sun from the day. So the morning is kind of miserable.
Okay.
So that was the big thing for Runaway Railway. Also, they're not doing the pre-show.
Which I understand, but to lose that effect, just kind of a heartbreaker. But
yeah, you lose both the effect and you lose the song.
Yeah.
And that was the big thing. But we understand why. Also, so I rode Runaway Railway with Seth Kuberski, my friend. And Seth actually pointed out, did you know this, Jim, that there's a B story in Runaway Railway involving Pluto? So there's the A story, right? The primary story in Runaway Railway is Mickey and Minnie trying to save the train. But if you look carefully in each scene, there's a B story, a secondary story, where Pluto is trying to hold on to a basket full of hot dogs. Have you noticed that yet?
I was told about this, but I was warned that primarily your vehicle, when it's doing its dance in each of the rooms, is trying to keep Mickey and Minnie front of brain, so to speak. You're kind of aimed in that direction. Whereas if you're looking to follow Pluto, you do have to turn. You do have to make an effort to find him in each of the rooms, right?
You'd have to look around a little bit for Pluto. The good thing is that the snippets with Pluto are generally after the main action has happened with Mickey and Minnie in each scene. So it's not like you're trying to watch two things at once.
Oh, no, I get that. I do.
So if you're going to ride it a couple of times, definitely look out for Pluto. Also, did you know that there's a sea story involving a crab?
I was just told about this week. You gotta love Imagineering. It's not enough to put you in a room with a tornado. It's like, now, not only find Pluto, find the crab.
Yeah. So there's a tiny crab supposedly in each scene in there as well. So I actually went back and rode that several times. Towards the end of the day, the lines were much lower. But it's so much fun. It's still it's gonna be a classic for years.
Oh no doubt. But leave it to Seth to find the sea story.
Exactly. Do you notice the crab?
Yeah.
It's like Seth. How many times have you ridden this that you recognize all of that? Yeah, it was fabulous.
Seth at this point, I think, has the equivalent of frequent flyer miles on Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway.
Right. He's got his own car on it.
Right up front with Goofy.
And we did get a chance to ride in both the front, the middle, and the back on it. And the great thing about being in the back when we rode was we got more of the end scene of the underwater part. Remember, there's a scene where, like, sort of the big middle part of the ride where you're you come into a giant room and it's a volcano, and then the volcano erupts and you end up going over a waterfall and then you're underwater. If you go into the volcano scene first, you get more volcano and less water underwater at the end. So, but if you go last into the volcano room, you only get a little bit of volcano, but you get more underwater. So the advantage of being in the back of the train is that you actually get to see what happens with Pluto. Then, when I think when you're in the first car, you can't.
What fascinates me is that you're in the volcano room. You then move to the position that sells you on the falling over the waterfall effect.
Falling over the waters, yeah, which is a great effect.
Absolutely. But then you move back into the volcano space, which is now using the projection technology to put you underwater. And I'm just fascinated by, it's the exact same rockwork in the exact same position, but you buy that you're in a totally different environment. And
I did, yeah. First time I rode it, I thought we were in a different room.
Yep.
So. Yeah. It's a really great use of space. And just the art direction on this, the pacing, the jokes, the visuals, it all comes together so well.
And remember, this is Charita Carter, the woman who is in charge of the Splash Mountain Princess and the Frog redos. So, the bar has been set really, really high.
Yeah. Charita did a fantastic job on that. I can't wait to see what she does on Splash Mountain.
Same thing here.
So then I walked through Animation Courtyard. The only thing open in Animation Courtyard is the Star Wars launch bay. And they don't have characters, obviously, because we're not doing character greetings. So it's completely empty right now. The only reason you need to go into Animation Courtyard maybe is for the air conditioning in Star Wars launch bay. But even then, there are other places to go. I think because Voyage of the Little Mermaid is closed and Disney Junior Dance Party is closed, that section of the park needs equity performers more than anything else.
Speaking of air conditioning, though, I did see the shot you took of yourself in Muppet Vision 3D with your with your Potato Land mask on. So thank you, Patty, for creating those.
Exactly. So. Yeah, I got tons of obviously, you have to wear the Potato Land mask on the day that you go to the studio. So I had it washed the night before. Actually, I have two Potato Land masks, one in blue, one in brown. So I wore that in the morning when I was riding Runaway Railway. But also Muppets, I sat completely up front in the first row, which I never do for Muppets. And I think that's actually the best row to sit in because you get to see what's going on with the penguins in the orchestra.
Oh, no, absolutely. In fact, I was recently have been corresponding with a gentleman who programmed all of the penguins and literally.
Of course you have, Jim.
But the fascinating thing is that he revealed that they'd actually made both sets of animatronics, because at that point, the idea was that the original Muppet Vision was going to open in 1990 at the studios, and then in 91 it was going to open at Disneyland, and then they put them in storage, and they didn't come out for a decade until they finally put the Muppet Vision attraction into DCA. But he was the guy who did the penguins, and actually was very happy that I noticed that the penguins constantly are watching the movie and commenting among themselves like, so.
Yeah. So here's a tip for listeners who are going to the studios soon. If you go see Muppets, and you should because the air conditioning is fabulous, sit in the very front if you can.
Yep.
You get to see more of the show. Yeah, I thought that was fantastic. Jim, the other thing I want to talk about is, and I texted you about this when it happened, my lunch at Backlot Express. Because this is a lesson in what to do right as a manager. So I had lunch at Backlot Express. And I decided to eat there because when I got hungry, I was at Star Tours. the adventures continue. And I wanted to eat, and I was like super hungry. So I mobile ordered, because you have to mobile order now in Disney parks. I had a hamburger, which again, I haven't eaten meat in so long. Then 2 days in a row I did. Cheeseburger, fries, Coke. My order was ready almost instantly because there were 6 other people in Backlot Express. I walked in, past 18 rows of hand sanitizers, picked up my order. The only thing they're doing differently now is, obviously, other than mobile ordering, you can't fill your own drinks. So there's someone there to give you your drink over by the condiment station. But once you go to the condiment station, you can go left or right to sit down. I went to the right, and there was nobody in my little area in Backlot Express. So I had a table for 6 because all the tables are pretty big there. So I'm in a corner with the table, and I'm in a corner of the table. So I'm as far away from everyone else as you can get with, and I have walls on 2 sides of me. So I'm eating my my lunch, and a manager comes out with cast members, and they were training the cast members on how to clean Backlot Express. And the manager started off, Jim, with the most pleasant voice, and she was explaining how to clean the tables to the cast members. It should have been, Jim, a Mary Poppins song. It was all about getting all the nooks and crannies and making sure that the seats and backs were wiped down, and then the tabletops, and then the sides of the tables, right? But it was all super pleasant and very thorough. Like, get every nook, get every cranny, don't miss a spot. Like, if we were outdoors, I think birds would have landed on our shoulders as she was saying this. Like literally, like Julie Andrews could sing this, and it would be a PSA for restaurant workers everywhere, right? Like, beautiful. So they do that, and they go through it, and the cast members are fine. And then a cast member said, "Well, what do I do if a guest doesn't want to sit with their group, or if they try and pull a chair?" I think the example was, what if a guest wants to pull a chair from one table and bring it to another? And at that point, Jim, Mary Poppins was replaced with Sheriff Buford T. Justice from Walking Tall. Like the personality switch was so fast that I half expected an announcer in the background to say, "Ask your doctor if Xanax is right for you." Like if there was a baseball bat prop on the wall, she would have started thumping it in her hand as she was saying it. And so the rule was absolutely not. If a guest tries to bring a chair from another table, like to make a table of 6, a table of 7, don't do that, because now you've done a bunch of things wrong. People can't walk by you in a socially distant way. You've now decreased the distance between this now extra chair sitting off on the side of one table and the other tables around it. And plus, you don't know now, when that person puts that chair back, which tables have been cleaned and which chairs have been cleaned and which chairs haven't. So don't do it. And then the manager said, if there's ever any problem, right, your job is not to fix the problem. Your job is to come get me, and I will fix the problem. And she went over like mask compliance. Like, what if somebody doesn't want to wear a mask when they're going out to the restroom and coming back? Just come get me, right? You can tell them that they need to wear a mask, but come get me, right? Come get a manager if there's a problem. And I thought it was great from a management perspective, because as a manager, that's the thing you're supposed to do. You're supposed to remove the barriers and obstacles to the people who work for you from getting their jobs done. And if their jobs are making sure that the tables are cleaned and everything is sanitized, you remove all the barriers to them that prevent them from doing that. And if there's an issue that's not directly related to their job, your job as the manager is to solve that problem, right? Let them do their jobs, you do yours. So it was just a great little 5-minute vignette about how Disney is handling this whole thing. And it was just fabulous to see. I was really, really, really encouraged by that. But Jim, the shift in tone, I'm drinking a soda, like, and I'm halfway through, I'm like, I don't know if I should be listening to this, but it's fascinating. But I didn't want to make eye contact with her, because it was, frankly, I was intimidated at that point.
This is the thing I constantly stress about. When you go to the parks, that you really want to do the fly on the wall thing. You don't.
Oh my God, I would love to hear more stuff like that. But yeah, it was. I mean, it was just great management in 5 minutes. It was perfect. So so I had a great, and actually the food was really good too. The fries were on point at Backlot Express. So that was really, really good. So now I've recorded 2 live in-park tours for the studios in Epcot. Those are Bandcamp exclusives now. So if you're a subscriber, you can go onto Bandcamp and download those. And I'll do probably Animal Kingdom over the weekend.
Oh, very cool. Can't wait.
All right, Jim. Another news. I was in when I was in Epcot. I went by the Epcot experience, and shout out to our friends at Blog Mickey who I think published this first. But there's some changes to the Epcot experience. Are there not, Jim?
Yeah, they are. In fact, I don't know if you've ever seen the video that Parent did for the Mary Poppins experience, where the screen's filled with cherry blossoms, and his little girl, who evidently was a huge Mary Poppins fan, lost her mind. It's like, oh my God, a Mary Poppins experience, and pedals. And so somebody's got to break it to this little girl that project has been paused, along with Spaceship Earth, right?
Right. So there used to be scenes in the Epcot Experience show that talked about the Spaceship Earth redo into storytelling, Disney storytelling.
Yep.
And there was a dedicated segment around the Mary Poppins attraction that was going to be built in the UK. And the news is that those two segments are now cut from the film. Interestingly, in the middle of the Epcot Experience is a three-dimensional building set of all of the things that are going around in Epcot. And Spaceship Earth is the centerpiece of that, and it's still there. And the Mary Poppins stuff in the UK is still there as well, but it's not highlighted.
Yeah. When Bob Chapek initially announced the Spaceship Earth redo at the D23 Expo last August, it was a very big deal. They showed that concept art for Egypt and how they were going to use light in there in a way that they never were going to, or never had before at a Disney attraction. And so everybody was like, oh, wow, huge redo of Spaceship Earth. And I think you and I were among the first to kind of put out, it's like, not so big as you might imagine, and certainly won't take a year. But what made it easy for both Spaceship Earth and Mary Poppins to move off the table is they were in design flux.
Right. Yeah, Mary Poppins, we never really even knew what the Mary Poppins attraction was going to be.
Well, and to be honest, the poor Imagineers who were working on it also didn't know. Remember that, there was the whole version of the flat rides that were in the park across from Cherry Tree Lane that was supposed to be built. Then there was a meet and greet, and then it was a question of, is it 3 meet and greets, like Anna and Elsa in the summer house, or is it 2? And the sad part of it is because they did not have a strong concept that was locked. It was easy to pause. Likewise with Spaceship Earth, because of the same thing. It's just sort of like they hadn't locked it. The one that they don't say pause, but they're reconfiguring it, redesigning it, is the Festival Center.
Right. So this was the 3-story round structure that was going to be on the edge of Future World where it meets World Showcase. And Disney's now said that it's not paused, but they're going to go back and rethink or reimagine it.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, the guys who work events are not happy about this decision. They had already walked this around to a lot of Disney's corporate partners.
Oh, really?
There's a number of folks who have already booked parties in this space for their conventions in 2022, 2023, that Disney's going to have to make goods on, because the idea was you're 3 stories up, and you have this amazing view that no one's ever had before of Epcot's nighttime extravaganza. Remember, and Harmonious is supposed to, have been up and running well past this period. So
right.
That one, they've already made promises in a number of different directions. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the Festival Center, because that wasn't just being built for the public. That was in much the same kind of, with World Showplace, how that went from a public space to a private space very, very quickly.
World Showplace was actually open for festival stuff. They had 4 booths in it, and it felt good. I mean, I forgot how enormous the inside of World Showplace is, but I felt absolutely fine in there with 4 booths and people eating. But going back to the Festival Center, Jim, do you think that the rethinking of it, was it primarily budget reasons, or was it the fact that Disney's rethinking 3 stories of people eating food indoors that gave them pause?
Well, now remember, the 3rd floor of this
floor was open.
Yeah, going to be basically an island in the sky garden space. My understanding is the pushback with the Festival Center is it's like, look, we lost 4 months of construction time. And we're going to have to rush to get Moana done. We're going to have to rush to get our new old Communicore, area up and running. Because remember, the clock is still ticking on the 50th anniversary. Yeah. And just the whole notion that we're going to have a construction site right in the middle of Epcot on the 50th anniversary.
It's guaranteed now that they will.
Yeah. So it's like, no, we have to take this off the table for the 50th. We'll pull down the construction phase, we'll pave over, and hopefully at some point in the future, we'll get to revisit this idea. But again, that's the whole notion of, face it, Mary Poppins and Spaceship Earth are paused, postponed, whatever the language is. Festival Center, when they use the word like redone, that means, okay, come 2022, we'll revisit this idea, and hopefully we'll be in a better space economically, and we can get this thing built. Because again, the events people wanted this bad.
Is there going to be a time where because they've already demolished a lot of that fountain space in the middle of Future World, is the idea that they're just going to leave the construction walls up for the next 3 years, or is it going to be we're going to knock everything down, we're going to plant some sod, and it's going to be, open space that people can walk through, just so you don't have to see construction walls for the next couple of years?
I think
is there an interim plan?
You pretty much zeroed it with what you said there, that what they believe is good show is like, look, if we're not going forward with construction, go in, pave, make this look as clean and professional as possible, lose the construction walls. Because again, remember, when Harmonious is finally up and running, Epcot Center is the center of the 50th anniversary celebration. And you cannot be sending people around construction walls, particularly at the end of the night. If we ever get back to Walt Disney World's traditional traffic patterns, you're going to have 20, 30,000 people around, World Showcase Lagoon watching Harmonious. And the fact that you then have this walled off construction site, I mean, think of it as a blockage in the aorta. It's like, no, that's not going to fly. So, you saw a construction fence go up, they did the prep work, it's coming down. Just anticipate that sometime between now and December, if the parks stay open, which in Florida, we'll see.
I don't think they're going to close. Well, I'll be more surprised if they close than if they don't.
I am knocking on the wood table here right now, Len. Okay.
For a variety of reasons.
Okay.
Jim, in other news, Disney also announced that, no surprise here, Stitch's Great Escape closure is permanent. Mm-hmm. That happened 2 years ago. I think we all assumed it was permanent. Yep. But also, Primeval World is closing permanently, and Rivers of Light is closing permanently. Primeval World, moderate surprise there. I think the liability on the ride mechanism was too much. But Rivers of Light, Jim, that's what, 2 years old?
Oh, yeah. And if you think about the money that was spent on creating that stadium space, coupled with the years and years and years of R&D, because remember, this project started off as a street parade and eventually became, the show that was held out on Discovery Lagoon. While we've seen the last of the float, the boats, likewise the floating animals, there is supposedly a plan that at twilight each night they're going to float the Lotus elements of the show out onto the water and have them unfold and light up and spray water up in the air. So it'll be a nice kinetic in what arguably, again, is a big blank void otherwise. But yeah, in a lot of ways, this is a heartbreaker. It's an expensive show to maintain, and it just did not deliver the goods.
It didn't. And that was the thing. I mean, it was, in our guest surveys, it was a clear number 4 in among Disney's 4 nighttime spectacles, right? The show never really found its voice, I don't think. And, early in the year before all the pandemic stuff happened, they had tried to make the show more relevant to people by bringing in Disney characters. Yeah. And I maintain, like, when Disney starts adding characters to things, it's a sign that they're out of ideas and they're desperate.
We had heard from folks in entertainment, the notion was that, they were only going to keep the show long enough, running long enough so that they could effectively write it off that, okay, we got our full value out of it, and then create a new show.
And now the pandemic allows them to write off so many more things.
There we go. So it's like, okay. But yeah, don't be surprised if, again, we get on the other side of the pandemic, that you do see a new nighttime show. Again, they built that arena, and they fully intend to use that arena in the future. But they just need to find the right show for this space. So,
all right, that makes sense. All right, Jim, one more thing. And I texted you this yesterday while I was in the studios, but the Themed Entertainment Association theme park report came out. And this report comes out every year, usually in June or July. And it the big thing that people like you and I want to know in that report is it gives attendance estimates for all the major theme parks in the world, including the Disney theme parks. And this year's numbers show that Disneyland got an attendance change with Galaxy's Edge of exactly 0%. Also, Hollywood Studios got a 2% bump with Galaxy's Edge. Now, granted, the lands weren't open the entire part of the year, but Jim, you look at those numbers. 0% and 2% is got to be a disappointment for Disney.
Oh, no, absolutely. And especially when you think about out in California, the money was spent on Project Pixie Dust to make it that much easier for folks to get to the back of the park, coupled with they built that brand new Pixar Pals parking structure right next door to Mickey and Friends, 6,500 additional parking spots because they felt, the world's going to come to this place. And, to have the exact same attendance, that's a heartbreaker. Got to be a lot of people. It's like, what do we do wrong? Is it the promotion? Is it the campaign? Or there's also, a program already in place. The Avengers campus is being built because the feel was that the crowds would be so huge at Disneyland, we had to create a brand new artificial reason to send people over to Animal Kingdom? Or excuse me, California Adventure?
Wow. Yeah, 0%. And obviously this year is going to be really hard to figure out because of the shutdowns, but... Yeah, 0%. Oof. And we've talked at length on the show about how the way that Disney rolled out the reservation systems for Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland for the first month sort of dampened the enthusiasm.
It did.
People seeing it. A lot of stuff didn't go right from them there. But again, at the end of the day, you spend $1 billion or whatever to develop a entire new land on both coasts dedicated to one of the world's most beloved film franchises. And you get nothing in terms of attendance out of it. And again, I know that it was only part of the year and there were some reservation problems and there's a pandemic and everything, but still,
yeah,
right. 0% is not what they're looking for there. There's no way to spin that.
Some interesting meetings being held in the Team Disney building.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Jim is going to tell us about Disneyland's Hyper Highway, the way that the area around the parks was redesigned for easier access.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance. Business owners, meet Progressive Insurance. They make it easy to get discounts on commercial auto insurance and find coverages to grow with your business. Quote in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliated and third-party insurers. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.
All right, Jim, speaking of Disneyland, you're going to tell us all about how Disneyland redid its external areas to handle crowds when they decided to build a second theme park, Disney's California Adventure, right?
Yeah. Early 90s or thereabouts, Disney, was working on Westcott and the two different versions of Westcott. And ultimately, that was a $3 billion project that was coming on the heels of Euro Disneyland, which wasn't making its numbers. So they shut that down, and on July 17th, 1996, company announces its plans for California Adventure, which is a $1.4 billion project, but that includes the theme park, the Grand Californian Resort and Spa, and the Downtown Disney District in Anaheim. They announced that in July of 1996, but the plan is that they're going to have all of this open in time for January of 2001. All right, so the clock is ticking. In order for them to make that deadline, Disneyland's old parking lot has to close by January of 1998. So that gives the DCA team 18 months to lock their plans for the entire project. The key difference between Disneyland and Walt Disney World, I face it, Walt Disney World, it does have hotels outside of property, out on 192 and, folks coming in from international, that sort of thing. But you've got 34 on-site hotels, 20 of which are owned and operated by Disney. So it is kind of a different mix from a transportation point of view, from what time guests arrive at the park and that sort of thing. Whereas Disneyland, there are only the 3 on-site hotels. At this point, there's only 2. There's the Pan Pacific, soon to be renamed, Paradise Pier, and of course the Disneyland Hotel, and eventually there'll be the Grand Californian. But most of the guests who are coming to the park each day, they're either Southern California locals who are driving in from home and using their own cars. So they needed to create, and if you're going to build a new park in the parking lot, you obviously need different places for folks to park. And we'll get to that massive Mickey and Friends parking structure in a later episode of Disney Dish. But the other part of this puzzle is the fact that a lot of people who are coming to Disneyland each day are staying in hotels in Anaheim and Buena Park, with the majority of them on Harbor Boulevard or on cross streets off of Harbor Boulevard.
Yeah, walking distance.
That's it exactly. Okay. Yeah. But for a lot of these resorts, they offer complimentary transportation, over to Disneyland. But the thing is that some hotels have a giant-sized bus, some motels have a van, some mid-sized resorts have their tram. So it's you have all of these different vehicles with all of these different passenger loads coming into the space, disgorging passengers in the morning and then bringing over smaller groups during the day. And then, of course, at night when the park's empty, everybody is coming out and expecting, they want transportation back to their hotel. And so the Imagineers knew going into this, as they were sussing out their plans for Disney's California Adventure and the Anaheim's downtown Disney district, they had to make it easier for these guests staying at these off-site hotels and motels to get to the theme parks, as well as to the new, the resort's soon-to-open retail, dining, entertainment district. 200,000 square feet of retail, coupled with 17 acres of cityscape and landscape. Len, we're talking about a space that's actually bigger than St. Mark's Square over in Rome. And wow. Disney knew that this was kind of outside of their area of expertise. So they turned to this outfit, Martha Schwartz and Partners. They were an urban design firm that specializes in tailoring previously used spaces into things that a rapidly expanding resort can actually use.
So this is an important point, because we all know that Disney maintains the property that they own, but mm-hmm. But Disney also maintains some of the landscaping on the streets around Disneyland, which mm-hmm. which are city structures. So like the medians of the streets around Disneyland are also maintained by Disney.
That was a big part of the initial Westcott negotiation. We're going to spend this $3 billion on this brand new theme park. But the problem is that, we look outside of Disneyland and there's all of this signage that's weird sizes, or for that matter, it's kind of a sea of asphalt. And we want a sense of arrival. We want a sense of occasion. And they convinced the city of Anaheim to get on board with the notion of the garden district. For example, now when you drive around Disneyland and the very thing you're describing, the lush medians with all of this greenery, or the palm trees, or the fact that all of the signage is of uniform size, that was something that Disney rammed down the throat of Anaheim back during a time when the Anaheim City Council was willing to bend, and that doesn't exist anymore. The Martha Schwartz people, they're tasked with creating a brand new transportation center on the east side of Disneyland Esplanade, and with the idea that it was going to service all of the hotels and motels off of Harbor Boulevard. And so to get a sense of the real design challenge they're facing, they sent a research team down, and Len, you'd love this. They stood there for months, counting the bus traffic, when the buses, trams, and vans would arrive each day, which routes they typically traveled, what directions they approached the Disneyland Resort from, how many passengers on average they dropped off, busiest time of the day versus slowest. And then they added in variables like the turning radius of the largest bus currently on the market?
Right.
What was the maximum number of bus stops they were going to need to accommodate all of these offsite hotels, the motels, the busiest time of day? And then when they had that info in hand, which in turn is supplemented by stuff they got from Caltrans about, when was traffic heaviest out on I-5, which in turn would impact traffic on Harbor Boulevard, they then make an informational trip down to Walt Disney World, which had, at that time, the third largest bus fleet in Florida, right behind Miami and Jacksonville.
They still do, actually.
And then it's a question of, okay, so what makes a Disney-quality transportation center? So now they plant their team at the Ticket and Transportation Center by Seven Seas Lagoon, and then they learn all about how crucial it is to have strong colors when you're trying to visually cue large groups of people on the ways that they should properly move through a large space. And it turns out we saw Disney institute that. Remember how when you come off of, I-4 and you go from the green government-issued highway signs to suddenly on Disney property, the bright red and the bright purple?
Right.
That actually helps people that much more. It's a different color palette. It gets their attention. It makes them that much easier to pay attention to where they need to go on Disney property. So with all of this info in hand, the Martha Schwartz people, they come back and they begin working the East Side Disney Esplanade, which now becomes known as the Hyper Highway. And the idea here, again, is to create a space that through the strong use of color and easy recognizable design elements would make it possible for tens of thousands of day guests, many of who've never been to Disneyland before, to move quickly and safely to the resort's Central Plaza, which is where the ticket booths and the actual entrance to DCA and Disneyland are located. But the idea was to create a space that you didn't really have to read Science Center. You were almost instinctually driven. And so the way they did this is they used shape language. I mean, for example, shapes that we're all familiar with, like a traffic cone. But they altered it. They made it twice as big as a normal traffic cone, and then they painted it green. And there was just enough it's like, okay, that's different. That slows you down. They placed dozens of these oversized bright green traffic cones on a 5-foot wide strip of bright yellow, what they call detectable warning tiles. They're tile with kind of a quarter-size bump, but thousands of them.
Oh, yeah. When you walk on them, they feel different on your feet.
Yeah, and that's exactly. Your brain, as you step on these things, is like, this is different. Maybe we should move with caution through here. They use these to designate the areas where you get on and off the buses, but next to them, they created these crosswalk spaces with giant black and white stripes that were created in such a way that they visually directed you to the Central Plaza. It's just that they're moving in that direction. I should go in that direction. So people would instinctively step off the bus, pass these cones, and see the thing and go, okay, I need to go in that direction. That's where the entrance to Disneyland is. The design team at Martha Schwartz and Partner, as they're pitching their final design for the Disneyland East Esplanade, they're in the Team Disney building, in Burbank, and they're proudly pointing out, that they included a nod to one of Walt's most famous movies as part of their Hyper Highway. And it's like, you see that bright yellow detectable warning tile? You see how it's...
Oh, God, no.
Yes. See how it starts in a tight swirl? It's just like the Yellow Brick Road does in Munchkin City in The Wizard of Oz. And so the Disney exec is like, they kind of pale, and they're like, we didn't make The Wizard of Oz.
This is going to be a funny story to tell your ex-coworkers.
But the thing is, the Martha Schwartz people no, wait a minute. We were down at Florida. We went to MGM Studios, and we went on the group movie ride, and you have that giant scene with The Wizard of Oz that actually includes the beginning of the Yellow Brick Road. And they're like, we got the licensing right from Ted Turner. In fact, we paid him a lot of money for that. So, which is why we're never telling this story to anybody.
Yeah. This is the last time this story comes out. Yeah.
Yeah. So one final fun fact here. You've got all the people on the East Esplanade who come in from the offsite hotels and motels, but on the West Esplanade, over by the downtown Disney district, you have the tram unload for the parking structure. And the question is, well, how Do the guests know when they come out of the park at the end of the night? I mean, it's dark, they're tired. How do they know where to go back for their cars? And it turns out the decision that was made there is like, well, we need to give them something to remember. And so that's why the tram load unload station is elevated.
Oh.
Before they put in, after 9/11, the security tents, you had a clear sight line. It's like, oh, there's the tram. I know to get off there. But also,
now you don't, yeah.
Yeah. But the interesting thing, the other thing they did deliberately to give you another sort of icon is that, remember, when you came off of the tram at the beginning of the day, as you stepped off and, stood there on the steps, you could look directly across at the World of Disney with its giant, oversized flying vehicles with the Disney characters. And I was like, oh, okay. So, at the end of the day, when you came out of the park, it's, I'm looking for the tram. Oh, yeah, there's the giant Chippendale and the flying thing. That's where I need to go. And flip side of that, of course, is that, in kind of the Emporium tradition, that typically 35% of the guests who walked over to the tram at the west side for the tram station, they wanted to going into World of Disney and doing shopping, because it's like,
it's right there.
It's right there. So
bonus.
Lots of fun stories associated with this, which we'll get to on some future episodes of Disney Dish. But I've always loved that story about the East Esplanade. It's like that famous Disney movie, remember?
That's now in the training material.
Yeah.
That's somewhere when you go to work for Martha Schwartz and Partners, they're like, okay, here's a thing that you should or should not do depending on your perspective.
Yeah,
that's funny.
So
that's fabulous. Good story, Jim.
No, Blythe Chandler.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for the Disney Dish show today. Please head on over to disneydish.bandcamp.com, where you'll find exclusive shows never before heard on iTunes. On next week's regular show, more from the parks, and Jim gives us phase 2 of how Disneyland went from a one theme park design to a multi-day resort. You can find more of Jim at jimhillmedia.com and more of me, Len, at touringplans.com. We're produced fabulously by Aaron Adams, who's getting his Spurs and Giant Lasso ready for the 2020 Hot Air Balloon Rodeo, Saturday and Sunday, August 29th and 30th in beautiful downtown Steamboat Springs, Colorado. While Aaron's doing that, please go onto iTunes and rate our show and tell us what you'd like to hear next. For Jim, this is Len. We'll see you on the next show.